I'm not trying to sell you this book. I don't even care if you read it. There will be no link in the description where I make 30 or 40p per person that buys it. But this book, I actually need to thank a huge amount for helping me work online, travel the world. And I probably never gave it enough credit for how it's truly helped me. Now, for a lot of you watching this, you have no idea who I am. You might have seen this book in an airport and gone, oh, that looks stupid. Who only works 4 hours a week. Then you've seen this video and then there's some twat in a vest sat here talking about it. But if you give me a few minutes, I'm going to explain the same lessons you can get from this. Nowadays, every single person wants to be an online coach, but I was doing this in 2017. My first objection, saying to people, they go, how can you personal train someone online? It was like saying to someone, you're an online plumber. But it was definitely what I learned in this book that permitted me to be one of the first to ever do it. Quick story. I was in Croatia. I went to Ultra Music Festival in Croatia, which is a fantastic music festival for any of you considering going to one. I know you got so many options around the world. You just get a good crowd of people in Croatia. But anyway, I did one too many pingers. And you know where it's not just a come down, you've got the zaps, where every time you're falling asleep, you get a little zap. So I decided that me and my friends should go to that waterfall in Croatia. And we go there and we get a little minivan on the way there. And there's a guy next to me in the back. He was American. I think he was from Miami. And he had his laptop out. I was like, mate, you're in Croatia. What are you doing on your laptop? He says, I'm working. I said, how can you be working? We're in Croatia. He goes, oh, I've got an accountancy business. I work online. I was like, what? I said, how can you work online if your business is in Miami? He says to me, James, he didn't know my name. He said, mate. Didn't say mate, it's American. He said, you should read the 4 Hour Workweek. So I made a note of it on my phone. When I got home, went onto Amazon, bought it. And I did what every single person does. This just kind of sits on your windowsill. And I remember thinking I was just about to start reading it. In the UK, we only get about 2 weeks of summer a year. I said, when it's next sunny and I've got a gap between clients, I'm going to go home, sit in my parents' garden and read it. But I'll never forget, one of my best mates at the time, he saw the book and he goes, oh, it's a good concept, but it would never work in the real life. So I reckon I put off reading it for about another month. And I went out in the garden. I started reading like the first 3, 4, 5 pages. And it became apparent to me that my mate hadn't read it. So I said to him, why did you tell me that? All he did was read the bit on the back. But anyway, the main concept of this book is defining something which I haven't actually mentioned in years, which Tim Ferriss calls the new rich. We've got people out there that are rich. They've got loads of money. But the new rich isn't about having $1 million in the bank. It's about having freedom. It's about being able to travel. It's about managing your own diary. It's about being in charge of your own business, which for the majority of time, not many people have had the opportunity of doing. Rewind to a magic mushroom trip I did a few years ago in Sydney. I was sat on a beach called Milk Beach. And I remember looking over into the city where you've got all the big corporate buildings. And there's loads of yachts between us. And I remember thinking, I bet all of those yachts are owned by super wealthy people, but I wonder how many of those wealthy people are trapped inside those skyscraper buildings in the city. I was like, they might have 100 times more money than me and a boat that I don't have, but I'm the one sat on a beach at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, and they're the person wearing a shirt and tie in an office that they can't leave until 5:30. So I was kind of thinking to myself, you might be richer, but I could be wealthier. And that was kind of the concept of the new rich. And if I was to say to you as someone, do you want to have objectively the most money in your bank account? Or would you rather have the autonomy to travel whenever you want, turn every single holiday into a business class trip, which is what the new rich do? Oh, you're going to LA for Coachella, James? Sounds to me like you're going there for a business meeting, coincidentally on the same weekend. That is not tax evasion advice. And another thing that I never really thought about until reading this book was I never really got excited about the concept of retirement. Hey, you're going to work really hard at school, stay out of trouble. You're going to go to university, get in loads of debt. You're going to get a 9 till 5. You're going to work really hard. You're going to pay off all your debt. And then just when you pay off that debt, you're going to get another debt. And that debt is going to be massive and it's going to be for a house. And you're going to pay it off for 30 years. So if you buy a house at 25, which no one is, most of them are buying them at 30 to 35. 30 years, that takes you to 65. So then you're just paying off debt. And then at 65, you paid off that debt. And now you can stop working, and then you get your pension, which is like a lot less of the money that you used to earn, but now you haven't got debt and you might own your house or you might not. And then you're 65 now, you can travel the world and do all of those things that you couldn't do because you only had 2 weeks of annual leave a year for the last 60 years. That never excited me. I was like, between 25 and 35, I have less than half the energy that I had at 25. So at 45, if that halves again, trust me, by the time I reach 65, I'm just going to want to sit at home on a rocking chair, being left alone. The idea of having to wait decades to be able to enjoy yourself never resonated with me. So when I read this book and I was like, wow, retirement is actually like a worst case scenario. If you never make anything of your life and your businesses never do that well, then maybe you give up at 65 and retire. But for some reason, we're kind of brainwashed into thinking that's the best outcome. Now, hypocritically, my dad retired. He loves it. Absolutely loves it. Does nothing with his days. He's feeding ducks with a bit of bread in the garden. He even somehow realized there were Egyptian geese at the top of a tree. He can barely use WhatsApp, so I don't know how he figured that out. But for me, I'm not saying for everyone, but for me, I couldn't imagine anything worse than retiring. Today's Christmas Eve. The thought of having today off makes me slightly depressed. What, I'm just going to have a day off because a fictional character that comes down a chimney, gives kids presents, is coming tomorrow or tonight. If there was someone that came from another country to give your kid a gift so it behaves, it's just got pedo vibes. Now, it wasn't just this book that pushed me over the edge to working online, but it got me started. It got me realizing that the digital world that we live in is very different to the world that came before. We can bypass that system of having to work for decades to then stop working. And there was actually a guy in Dubai who messaged me when I was personal training in Bracknell. His name was Cliff. He said, "Hi, James, I want to do personal training with you." I go, "Cool, come in for a consult." He goes, "I can't, I live in Dubai." I was like, kind of a long way to come for a consult, mate. He goes, "You're just training me online." I was like, "How am I going to do that?" He goes, "I don't know, you figure it out." He had followed me online, and he said that all the PTs around him in Dubai were kind of bellends, and he didn't care that I didn't know what I was doing. He would rather have me train him online, and that's how it began. Started training Cliff, and then before you know it, I was training Pippa. Then before you know it, I was training a few other people. That combined with this book meant that within a few months, I left England, I left all my clients, and I started training people online from Australia. I was backpacking down the East Coast. I was charging £55 a week. And again, this isn't a video about pricing, but I just said, I'm going to charge my hourly rate for a week. And the reason being is, for them, it meant they didn't just stand with me for an hour. They could get 3 or 4 workouts and daily points of contact with me. And for me, it meant that I could service that person in less than an hour. Because when you sell an hour of your time for just a bit of money, no matter if you're super productive in that session or not, you get paid the same. Whereas now I was rewarded for the more efficient I was, the more caffeine I had, the quicker I could service a client, the more money I was earning per hour. For the first time, I could move away from having to earn a fixed amount in 8 hours to being able to earn considerably more as long as I was productive. One of the golden rules in this book is about delegation. Now, I disagree with a lot of the concepts in here about delegation. It kind of makes it feel like everything should be delegated. But Tim Ferriss does have a very good point where he asks a question. If something needs to be done, do you need to do it? And if the answer is yes, then you should do it. But if you don't, you should consider delegating it. Even editing this video, I would love to edit this video. But considering Declan can do it and he can actually do it better than me, I should give it to him so I can go away and do other things that are more productive to the business. I also start doing that in 2017 with personal training. Although I was the personal training brand, the fact that I could hire another coach to do that for me meant that I could spend my time working on the element of the business that would actually be more profitable, which would be making content. It was only breaking free of this belief that the business that I had to exist within the 4 walls that I worked within that I was able to build several empires that take over the world. And the reason I'm telling you this is that it's really important for you guys to appreciate that there is a world outside there, you might not have figured it out yet, of business that doesn't involve you getting paid a certain amount per hour and that doesn't involve you having to be in a fixed location forever. The biggest problem I see that I definitely had in corporate world, which I worked in for years before operating my own business, was they have the 9 till 5, or actually it was probably 8:30 till 5:30. And again, you get punished with traffic because you have to always get to the office a little bit earlier to avoid traffic, but you still have to leave at the same time. If you get in 10 minutes earlier, you don't get to leave 10 minutes earlier. But whatever work you had for the day, you become very accustomed to stretching it across the day. It's called Parkinson's law. The amount of time you give to a task, it will take that long to complete. No matter what it is that you're doing, you are not rewarded for getting things done faster in an office. If anything, you're now just left there with 2 hours at the end of the day. You sit there going, it's 3:30, I've got nothing left to do. You have to look busy for 2 hours, which is actually probably more difficult than the work that you're doing. I know, I did it for years. And you develop so many bad habits from that. Whereas when you're running your own business and operating your own books and doing everything yourself, you can determine how hard you want to work at different parts of the day. I also have insanely bad ADHD, and I just do not know when I'm going to be productive in a day and when I'm not. Some days, 7 a.m., I'm firing on all cylinders. Other days at 7 a.m., I'm doom scrolling on Instagram. Some nights at 7 p.m., I'm exhausted watching TV. Other nights, I'm getting ideas and I'm scripting videos for the next day. For so many of us, from a personality standpoint, if you're someone that just loves going in, having the office 9 till 5, sitting there and doing your thing, this video is not for you. But some of you probably feel like you're a square being put in a triangle hole. And although some of the delegation stuff in this is just a bit wishy-washy, the thing about getting a EA online or someone online to do stuff for cheaper than it would cost you in real life, I have used. When I had my podcast cranking, I actually hired a lady called Mary from the Philippines, and she got, I think, $10 an hour. And I gave her the Instagram logins for my Instagram, and I gave her the simple task of 1, identifying conversations that could be important, and 2, saying thank you to people that had shared my podcast. Now, it can seem like a relatively insignificant thing, but for me, for $10 an hour, to pay her $50 a day, I could then make sure that every single person that was kind enough to share my podcast, got a little message going, thank you, appreciate it, that could just spur them on to carry on sharing it every time they listen to it, which could have a profound impact on the growth of the podcast, which would then have a profound impact on the growth of the brand, which would then have a profound impact on book sales or whatever it is. So sometimes if there's any of that manual labor that you can offset, this book definitely opened up my eyes to that. Not every industry can be pushed online, but a lot of them can, whether it's an editor, whether you are a consultant, even as a personal trainer. For years, everyone thought that has to be done in person. But if you can get people to start using your services online, you can actually start to deliver a better product. One of the premises of this book is that say you are employed in a corporate 9 to 5 job, that you start taking time away from work to work remotely, but then you work better remote and you create a case that you can go to your employer and say, hey, on the days that I don't come to the office, I seem to perform better. Therefore, if you want me to perform my best, you should let me work from home more. And you can actually do the exact same thing as an online coach. One thing I never realized that my online clients were going to get better results than my in-person clients. Just the matter of fact that I would spend more frequent times checking in with them on a daily basis, and that I'd be setting them more workouts that they had to do themselves. So many clients that you have in person kind of just lean on you to be the deliverer of the session, and they probably don't come in any time that you're not with them. We've all had the clients that have come in and you go, oh, did you come in at all? Oh, I was really busy last week. Whereas if they're online, they have to do it themselves. And something as simple as a strategy of saying to a client, hey, every evening before you go to bed, send me a screenshot of your MyFitnessPal. For you, that takes 10 seconds to go, oh, cool, Dave hit his calories, well done. But for them, that means that they're accruing days on days on days on days of actually hitting the goals that you set them. Then another thing from this that I think was massive was the fact that you can automate so much of the sales process, which as a PT on the gym floor, I had to manually go out there, prospect, talk to people, book them in for the consult, turn up to the consult, talk them, take them through a little session, then at the session try and close them. Whereas actually now the majority of all my sales online are done overnight with automations. For instance, there's a link that I put in almost every single YouTube video that says if you want 30 ways in 30 days to improve your business. And when people sign up to that, which you can do, you can literally sign up to steal it if you want. Every day they get an email that's sent and it's already been pre-written. And by the end of that automation, they're either converted to join the course or they're not. But either way, my sole job then is to get people to join the automation. So if you think about this video goes on YouTube, whether it gets 5,000 views, 10,000 views, whatever, suddenly a certain percentage of those people are going to listen to this verbal cue to click that link in the description, then they're going to sign up. From there, the majority of them are probably going to think that they're too impenetrable. They go, James, do you know what? I'm going to read your emails over 30 days and there's no way that you're going to convince me that your program's good enough. Yet 17% of people that read them sign up. So that automation is there in place tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day. And when people become clients, there is an onboarding process, and then I will talk to them inside the mentorship. So everything is automated. From this video to our first point of contact, I have created systems in place so I don't need to be there. So that if someone comes up to me and goes, oh, James, I'm interested in your course, I say, look, go watch a YouTube video. If you like it, click on the link in the description, and the whole sales process is taken care of. Another thing that this book definitely helped me with was appreciating how valuable my time is. Now, if I did not have a partner right now and I was single, I would probably consider hiring a cook or a chef. Chefs aren't actually that expensive, but you could hire one to come round and do 6 hours of cooking on a Sunday afternoon. You could say to them, hey mate, I'll pay you extra if you go do the shopping for me. I want to have 200 grams of protein a day, roughly 2,500 calories. Can you make it happen? The chef could then go away, get a massive shopping list and order, then I could pay them for 5-6 hours where they cook it up, put it in Tupperware, put it in my fridge. Let's say that was to cost me hundreds of dollars per week. If that means I don't have to go to the supermarket every day, that I don't have to go out during my lunch break, that I don't have to cook and clean and wash my pans and everything else, I could be saving myself hours throughout the week. And I just need to ask myself, how valuable are my hours? When I lived in London, I would skateboard everywhere I could. But sometimes it would be more profitable for me to get an expensive Uber somewhere. So let's say me skateboard to the tube station, change on the tube a couple of times, get off, skateboard to the other place was 45 minutes. If I was to go in an expensive Uber and it was an hour, sometimes I would take the Uber because even if it was to cost me 80 or 90 pounds, I get to sit in the Uber and work. And that work might look pretty fucked up compared to what other people consider work. But I would say to myself, if I sit in the Uber and answer story questions, which can seem like fucking around, I'm actually curating content that I get to determine and decide which questions I ask in front of tens of thousands of people. And then I could put a call to action within those story questions somewhere, which could then compel maybe a few thousand people to go into an automation where they can get a sale. One of my old business mentors had a Ferrari. Don't really like Ferraris myself, but he used to get the bus to work because he could work on the bus. If he drives his Ferrari, sweet, it's nice Ferrari, sit in London traffic, But if he gets the bus from outside his house to the gym that he used to work at, he gets to do emails, he gets to respond to people, he gets to book people in for calls, he gets to do all of that. So sometimes you do need to consider where you can save time in your life for it to be more profitable. Same reason getting a cleaner. Paying someone to do the things so you can work more only benefits the net equation. Even Declan here, you cost twice as much as my Porsche does a week, but he gets me time back that I can then spend either working or being with my family. And that, at the end of the day, is a thought of the new rich. The old rich would go, I'll do everything myself so I can have the most money in the bank account. The new rich go, have half of my money, give me the freedom, give me the time. Give me the facts that I can go traveling and know that things are going to get done. And better yet, Declan can go traveling and he can work while he's away because he's one of the new rich now. Where are you going over Christmas? Queensland. Guy's going out of state, but he'll have an SD card on him, and just having one of these on him means he can earn cash whilst he's traveling. He's not tied down. Your family are going to go, what are you doing, Declan? It's Christmas. You go, I'm working. How can you be working from Queensland? I thought your employer was in New South Wales. You go, I'm part of the new rich. Shut your mouth. You go, here's $100. Shut up. Don't know if that's how you talk to your family. That's how I talk to mine. Now, one of the craziest things is I reread this book over the last few days, and it is nowhere near as impressive as I remember it. In my mind, I was like, this is a Bible. If you read this, you'll become a millionaire. But it's not. It's actually, sorry, Tim Ferriss, a relatively average book. But I come to realize now, it wasn't the book that really changed everything. It was the book that just changed my beliefs of what normal was like, because we are all brainwashed and gaslit into having this similar kind of structure as to how work looks. But we get to define it. We get to determine whether it's online, whether it's in person. And so many of you right now will be like, oh, but in my profession, we can't do that. I'm a barber and I can't cut someone's hair from online. Patrick's brand that's in Selfridges went surfing with the guy the other day. Harrods opened a barbershop, saw an opportunity for a hair product that he thought would potentially be better than all the others. Barbers then make incredible hair product. You could be a lawyer and you're there getting $800 an hour as a lawyer. I can't be a lawyer online. Well, you could do consultancy, or you could be someone that gives out free assets so that people understand the legislative procedure of a divorce. And you could be the divorce guy. And then you can make content on YouTube about divorce. And then you could be like, hey guys, if you want to know where your legal ramifications are surrounding a divorce, pop your email address in. Over the next 2 months, I'm going to bring you up to speed on 2025's legal situation for divorce. Then you could have a team of killer divorce lawyers who go in there and make sure that she doesn't take you to the cleaners, bro. It's not that your profession can't do it. You just might have the vision that I had for years, looking down and pigeonholing and going, oh, I help people count their reps, and that's all I can do. Here are the key things that I implemented from the book that I think you should do with your life. Don't wait till you're 65 to enjoy yourself. Create a business and a system and something that means right now that you can have mini retirements. In 2018, I was going out with an Australian girl. I was on her visa and that relationship imploded. I became depressed. I also went through a legal situation, which wasn't great, but due to the nature of building an online business, I went to Bali. And I tell you what, crying on a moped in Bali is better than crying in your bed at home. Lived in Bali for 3 months, went to the Middle East, ended up in the UK for 6 months, went to Coachella with some strangers from the internet. Why? Because I was working online. When I look back now, and like I say, I'm only 35, I could retire from having fun right now because I'm tired. I'm exhausted. But I look back at all these little mini periods in my life where I never stopped working, but I definitely dialed it back to enjoy myself. I'm so grateful I didn't wait another 30 years to start having fun. You can go to so many parts of the world that are just significantly cheaper than where you are now. Relative income is something that's really important. So there's no point earning, people in London do this, they earn good money, they earn £100,000 a year. You can barely get by with that in London. But if you were to go live in Argentina or Bali or Thailand, you'd be so wealthy there because your income relative to what you spend would be massive. You can also do this without geographical restrictions. For so many of you, take this advice if you want or don't. I moved back in with my parents when I was 25, maybe even 26. Why? So I could flip the relative income spectrum. Move back in with my parents, save £1,000 a month, spend it on travel. Sevens I was playing, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Dubai. Where was it? Didn't matter. For so many of you, if moving back in with your parents at a stage in your life when you're single frees up some income so you can travel a bit more, that's a good deal. Just say, look, mum, dad, I'm going to be doing a bit of shagging and I want you to be okay with it. I don't want you to be asking me who my friend is when my bedroom door's closed at 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning. I want you to just vacate the property so I can kick them out. You get to see more time with me. I get to spend more time with you, but there are boundaries. So many of you with the onset of your business, even if you move to Dubai, you're going to get half price everything because you don't pay tax. If you can relocate and situate your business to where you can have a bigger relative income, again, you can do well. Then you have the pressure off of how many clients you need to survive. And I'll never forget the main quote of this book that really kind of opened my eyes to make the decision to leave the UK and move to Australia, which just so happens to be one of the best things that I ever did, was in my business. I was doing well. I was earning good money. I had good clients, but there was like a little itch that I couldn't scratch and I wasn't sure what it was. And then in the book, it says the opposite of happiness is boredom. I realized I wasn't unhappy. Everything was good. I was just bored. And for so many of you, you might get paid well in your corporate job. You might have a good pension, but if you're bored, it's kind of like a bit of a disease. It's a disease that doesn't show up in your blood work. You know, you could go to get bloods, perfect panel, everything's looking good, but slowly boredom is just eating away at your brain and rotting you. And the question I pose you at the end of this video is, even if you were to earn half or 2/3 of what you earn now, but you weren't bored and you enjoyed it, would you do it? Most of you say yeah. And the final thing that's not in this book, this is actually one of my quotes, is for years, I did jobs I hated, that I loathed, whether recruitment, working in a sales call center, whatever it was. I always did well. But in the back of my mind, I thought, oh, if I do my own thing, if I start my own business, what if I fail? What if I fail? What if I fail? But the truth is, if I do well at a job I hate, imagine how well you could do at a job that you actually love. And that's the harsh reality. If you're doing well or killing it in a job you hate, only imagine what you could do. You put that effort into a job that you loved. So now you don't really need to read the book. What you need to do is get the fuck on with it. Don't care what your profession is. Build a social media following. Some of you worried, oh, what do I sell? I don't care. Build the following first. So many of your problems go away. Once you built the following, micro test some products. Put some things out there. See what your audience resonate with. Then out of all the things you put out, which one is performing the best? Double down on that. Once you double down on that, work really hard to get more people joining your business that end up leaving. I've written a self-help book, right? And let me tell you this, when you start earning good money, you don't need self-help books. I almost feel like these books, and I'm guilty of it, are written to make people happy that just aren't doing that well. If your businesses perform better, if you loved what you did for a living, and you're making more than enough money than you needed, and you became one of the new rich, there is not one self-help book that can make you feel better because you will already feel fucking awesome. So get the fuck on with it. Start getting at it. Start getting to work. I help small personal brands build their brand and business using social media. There'll be links in the description as normal. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you in a bit. Bye-bye.